Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here. In today's video, we'll be talking about Christian Kirk and DK Metcalf and even Davante Adams. All three of those wide receivers are currently available. And I'll be talking about if the Washington Commanders should consider signing or trading for one of those guys. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well. It's free, it takes 1 second. I would really appreciate it. Just comment done if you did that. And yeah, comment down below also which wide receiver out of those three you would like the Commanders to pursue. I mean, Christian Kirk, I would say there's close to a 50 or more percent chance that they sign him and he's on the roster. And then, Davante Adams, I don't think it's likely. And then DK Metcalf, there's a possibility, but I very slim chance in my opinion. But let's talk about it. So we'll talk about Christian Kirk in a sec because I think that has the most likely chance to happen. But let's talk about DK Metcalf. He requested a trade from Seattle. The team is expected to explore it. There's likely going to be significant interest. So DK Metcalf's a stud receiver. He does have some diva tendencies, but for the most part, he's a good player. He's a good guy too. But there is some times where he's crashing out on the sideline. But I think he would be a good addition to the team. But the problem is, you're going to have to give up draft capital. The Commanders don't have a lot of draft capital right now. It's not like they don't have any, but they don't have a lot. And you're going to have to pay him too. And you have Terry McLaurin under contract. You have Deebo Samuel under contract for at least this year, which is going to be, $17 million, over $17 million. So that's a lot of money. And then DK is probably going to be, close to 30. So that's going to be, 30 plus 17, let's just call that 20, and then 20. That's $70 million tied up to three players. And the thing is, Deebo will be, you'll be able to get out of that after this year, so it doesn't matter too much. But still, it is a lot of money to be tied up to the receivers. And the biggest thing is the draft compensation. I don't know exactly what it's going to take, but could be a first-round pick, could be more, or not, could be a first-round pick, could be a couple of day two picks. The Commanders don't have that much money or that much draft capital and money also to throw around to get DK Metcalf. They could hypothetically do it or theoretically do it, but the problem is then after that you don't have a lot of assets to go ahead and improve that defense, which was the biggest problem. The thing is, you have Jaden Daniels, who is gonna, is already an elite quarterback, is going to be a franchise quarterback for the next hopefully 10-15 years with the Commanders. And he will elevate players. You saw him elevate guys that had bad years year before, like Zacchaeus, who ended up having decent years for us. So you throw in, instead of Zacchaeus, throw in Darius Slayton or Westbrook Akine, or you already got Deebo Samuel. And I think Jaden will be able to elevate those guys. Cliff Kingsbury will be able to elevate those guys. I don't think you need to give up trade assets and money to go after a guy like DK Metcalf, who is a stud. Do not get me wrong. But I just rather go after, other positions like D-end, possibly defensive tackle, maybe cornerback. Like, there's just bigger needs. Offensive line too. There's way bigger needs than a other receiver at this point. You got Davante Adams. I talked about it in yesterday's video, which I also talked about Deebo again. You guys can go ahead and watch that. There's a bunch of different reasons why I wouldn't go after Davante. Again, we already have Deebo. We have Terry. Davante is a little bit older, so you're going to have three receivers pushing 30 or more. With Deebo, I think, being 29, so would be the youngest out of the three. Terry's already 30, I believe, and then, Davante is older than that. It's just a lot of older receivers, and you don't have a lot of youth there. That receiver room would be amazing, though. Do not get me wrong, but he's also going to probably want a decent amount of money. There's also, a lot of receivers have some, drama with them, but Davante definitely does. Said he wants to wear number 17 if he comes here, and that would be an issue because Terry's 17. He says he doesn't know if he could do, not Terry, but Davante said he doesn't know if he could go to a team that has a 17 because that's important to him, and he wants to play on the West Coast. Just a bunch of different reasons why I don't think Davante would make sense. But a guy that does make sense is Christian Kirk, and he's obviously the worst one out of these three in terms of how good of a player he is, but he just got released today, and Davante Adams, he got released yesterday, so at least you wouldn't have to give up trade capital for him. But yeah, Christian Kirk, He got released, and I forgot to talk about it earlier, but with DK, you would have to give him a new deal more likely than not. Christian Kirk, not only is he a decent receiver, but he has that connection with Cliff Kingsbury, who he worked with in Arizona. And, Christian Kirk, 5'11", 200 pounds. This past year only played 8 games, and in those 8 games had 380 yards. So wasn't great, but I mean, he was on pace for 750, 780 or whatever it was. He was on a good track to have a solid end of the season there. I think he started to play really well before he got hurt. Only had 1 touchdown. He's not a big touchdown guy, probably averages, I guess 17 game average is 5. His 17 game average, you can see the stats here. I like that they recently in the last year or so added this to Pro Football Reference, but his 17 game average, 946 yards, 5 touchdowns, 43 first downs. You see the rest of the stats, 55.7 yards per game is his average. The highest were 2022 and 2023, so he's not far removed from those seasons. He just has a little bit of an injury issue recently. 2022 he was good, had 1,100 yards. That was the year after he got signed in free agency. 2023 played really well, 800 yards, 3 touchdowns. The problem was he got hurt, missed 5 games. That year he was probably on pace for, that was the best year of his career. In terms of the pace that he was on. He was on pace to, maybe not touchdowns wise, but was probably going to get you like 5 touchdowns ish on the year and like 1,150 yards, because he was slightly outpacing that 2022 season, not by much, but by a little. So Christian Kirk still has stuff left in the tank. You just got to be healthy. I think you can get him for cheap, and you're not getting it's not super young, but you add him, he's 28. You have Terry, who's 30, 31, and then you have Debo, who's 29. So it's not a young group, but then you got Luke McCaffrey, who you drafted. That's 4 receivers right there. I would say go ahead and draft the guy. Go ahead and draft the guy on day 2, day 3, and try to develop him. And then, in that point, you got 2 guys that are younger that maybe you can develop. But Terry's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Knock on wood. And Debo is still young. If he plays well, you can make that work. And then Christian Kirk too. So, I would say, ideally you want to go younger, but Christian Kirk's still relatively young, 28 years old, and he'll still be 28 once the season starts. So that's a guy I would be very interested in. Your receiver room would be Terry, Debo Samuel, Christian Kirk, and then Luke McCaffrey, and then whoever else they bring in, whether that's a free agent. But if they bring in Christian Kirk, I don't think you have to bring in another top, even a big name guy, like even a medium guy. I would say you bring in Christian Kirk, that puts you at 4 receivers. Draft 1, maybe bring in an undrafted free agent or 2, and then I would say bring back one of the guys, Noah Brown, OZ, Jamison Crowder, maybe 2 of them. And Noah Brown, I wouldn't mind that because he is a bigger receiver and he did play well before he got hurt. So Noah Brown, bring him back, and then maybe Jamison Crowder as a returner, and you're chilling at the wide receiver position, and you can focus more on the defensive side of the ball, in the draft in terms of, getting an edge rusher, maybe also on offense, getting offensive linemen, and then on defense, maybe you need a corner or something else. You can focus on that versus trying to figure out, how to add another receiver. So Christian Kirk, I think it makes all the sense in the world. A guy that knows the system and isn't going to take super long to get acclimated. They can go ahead and sign him soon, because that's how it works with guys that got cut before free agency. So go ahead and do that if you're the Washington Commanders. I think that would be a great signing. It's not going to be super expensive. I would assume it's a 1-year deal. I would assume that he's looking for a 1-year deal, maybe with some incentives. If he plays well, he'll get some more down the line. So you can probably get him for a little bit cheaper because it is a 1-year deal. And I think that would be a really good move for the Commanders, and it really makes sense for them to make that move. I don't know, again, how much money it would take. I can look it up. Let's look it up. Let's look it up what Spot Track has, his valuation at. But I just don't think it's going to be that much. Like, I would say around $10-ish million. But if it's a 1-year deal, I would think it's a little bit less than that. He signed a 4-year, $72 million deal. So it's a big deal. And, he might be like, you know what? Obviously, he wants money, but he's been getting paid a lot. So he wouldn't mind, So I don't know. I really don't know what he's going to get paid. But, yeah, I think, in that $10 million or less range. And I think that would be a great signing for the Commanders. And, yeah, as long as he's healthy. But that is it for today's video. Going back to Nova right now. So, got to get going. But thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And peace.